Welcome to Black Women Leading the podcast. I'm Laura Nice, your host and the founder of BlackWomenLeading.com. Today, we're talking about catalyzing community-led leadership with Alysia Lee. If you have ever had a desire to build more kind of equity-based frameworks into your leadership style, if you desire to find more robust ways to engage your different stakeholders, and if you want to build stronger collaboration on your teams and with all the different partners you need to work with to do your work, then you need to keep listening. Let's get into it. This podcast amplifies the needs and experiences of Black women leaders in the workplace with a holistic focus on three core areas: leadership development, mental wellness, and relationship management. Our ultimate aim is to help Black women learn, heal, and grow in their leadership capacity. Get ready, sis. The Black Women Leading Live Conference and Retreat is back for our 4th annual event. And this year, we're leveling up. In 2026, we're developing future-ready leaders. Leaders prepared to rise, adapt, and thrive in a world that's changing every single day. Designed by Black women for Black women, this is a one-of-a-kind professional development experience. You go deep into the heart work and the head work, the alignment, strategy, clarity, and confidence you need to boldly walk into your next level. This year, we're spotlighting the skills and mindsets that define future-ready leadership, navigating disruption, leading through change, anticipating opportunity, and adapting with resilience and vision. Whether you're an emerging, mid-career, or senior leader, this space was created with you in mind. True to our cultural roots, we learn in community, across generations, across experiences, and across our shared brilliance. You'll be surrounded by Black women leaders, coaches, and experts, including direct learning from yours truly as the creator of the Black Women Leading programs and podcasts. If you are ready for transformation, if you are ready to expand your leadership and your wellness, if you're ready to prepare not only for what's now, but what's next, then you belong here. Join us at Black Women Leading Live, May 11th through the 14th in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Save your seat at www.bwlretreat.com. Your future-ready leadership journey starts today. So, hey everybody, today we are talking about catalyzing community-led leadership with Alysia Lee. Hey Alysia, how you doing?
Hello, Laura. It's great to be here. Happy to be with you today.
So excited to have you. So I'm really excited to jump into this topic because it's so aligned with the work that we do with Black women leaders. And I feel like it's a tension point that some of them feel within their organizations too. So we want to hear what you have to say about this. But before we get into the topic, let me give you all the official about Alysia. Alysia Lee is the president and CEO of the Baltimore Children Youth Fund, where she leads one of the nation's most innovative public philanthropic organizations dedicated to advancing racial equity and youth leadership. Under her leadership, BCYF has transformed traditional grant making by centering community voice, investing in grassroots leadership, and designing systems that prioritize justice, sustainability, and abundance. A nationally recognized thought leader, Alysia works at the intersection of philanthropy, youth development, education, and the arts. She brings a rare blend of operational discipline, visionary thinking, and values-aligned leadership to her work. Now, Alysia is also the founder of Sister Cities Girl Choir, a El Sistema-inspired choral program that has empowered hundreds of girls across multiple cities through a blend of musical excellence, social justice, and youth development. She is also a proud Kennedy Center citizen artist and an in-demand guest conductor. Y'all, she is versatile, okay? With recent engagements including the LA Master Chorale, Mendelssohn Chorus, and the Boston Children's Chorus. Now, Alysia is also a sought-after national speaker and facilitator. And as a Black woman leader, she leads with lived experience and a deep commitment to justice, creating new spaces of new models for power and partnership. So you can see why I wanted to talk to her about this topic. And again, this catalyzing community-led leadership. The reason why I wanted to go here is, as I mentioned, that oftentimes when we are inside of organizations, having to lead, having to be ambassador for what the organization is doing, the organization strategy, it can sometimes be at odds with our personal value center, right? And leaders have to navigate that. And so just some of the transformative work you've done in the grant making space about how do we bring more people to the table, and not just to get their opinions in a focus group, but to really have them a part of the decision making. I think there is some possibility modeling here that people can learn from what you and your organization is doing. And that's why we want to talk about it today. So let's get into it. Before we start talking about this community led leadership model, I want to start with a question I ask all of our guests, Alysia, and I'd love to hear this from you too. So, what does the phrase Black woman leading mean to you? And can you just share a little bit about your journey as a real life Black woman leading and how you came to do this work?
Mm. Well, when I hear Black women leading, I think immediately about the Black women in my life. I think about my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, really dynamic. I'm fortunate to have been surrounded by a lot of women who took their own destinies in their hands in many cases and led against the odds, um, women who, are part of the Great Migration and traveled up from the South, from South Carolina up to Baltimore, to create better opportunities for their children. Women who, my Aunt Blossom started her own, lived by her own rules, and was the only literate person in her family unit.
Wow.
And served in that capacity, but also, so she was like the go-to, but then, when she moved up to Baltimore, started a store and was a real, centerpiece of her community.
Wow.
And so I'm just really inspired by those women who poured into me and loved on me, but also poured into themselves. And they were a good testament of, I think, what it means to be a Black woman leader, which is to be a Black women are strong, Black women are resilient, but Black women are also soft and sensitive, right?
Yes.
And so to be able to hold all of that in one place and to be able to make some decisions for yourself is, I think, what most of us are really wanting. And when it happens, it's so beautiful to see.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful to see a Black woman that is allowed space to bring the multitudes that she contains to the space, right? To be a business owner, to be a mother, to be an aunt, to be a community leader, right? To be able to hold the hard and the soft. And so, when I'm in the middle with other Black women leaders, it's always such a wonderful thing because we know where we've been and where we're trying to get to. So it always feels like, you too. If there's a lot of kids in it, there's a lot of recognition. So yeah, Black women leaders are wonderful leaders in our communities, and especially for everyone else around us when you give us the space to be whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that holding the strong and the soft, and as you said, being able to bring the multitudes. And I like to dig into that a little bit because you got some multitudes going on too, right? Yeah. As I was looking at some of your background and coming from a creative space, being a musician, a composer, now you're leading up the grant making. Like, tell us a little bit about that journey and how you it's not from there to here because you're still doing that amazing work. But
yes.
What did that expansion look like for you?
Sure. I mean, I think probably about 10 years ago, I really just sat down and decided, not what career path do I want to follow, but like what career path do I want to create for myself? What do I want to be doing? What would give me the most joy? And for me, I always want to be working and advocating on behalf of young people. I want to be making sure I want to make sure that I have some role professionally or in community where young people are at the center of the work that I'm doing. And so that means like my creative work, my artistic work is wrapped around like young people, young people's voice. And also the other side of my brain also needs an itch. I'm not a person who I'm a person who has, I don't know, like left and right brain both need
Yeah, yeah.
scratch. So I like systems work. I like thinking about frameworks. I like thinking about organizational development. And I've had the opportunity in my career because I was an education administrator, right? I've done grant development, I've done professional learning, I've done that. And I always was just dogmatic about, in order to do this work well, like if you want me to be, I was at the State Department of Education before I
Mm,
came to BCYF. And if you want me to be the fine arts leader and write arts education policy, I'm not in the classroom anymore,
yeah.
right? I'm out of touch. So I need, part of my time has to be also spent being with community, making
Yes.
art, continuing to foster my own creativity so that I can be a creative leader. And so I've always been able to carve that out. And so that means like my career has, it's like, well, what do you mean? Because you'll see me in one place and not understand how I'm in the other. How
Yeah.
are you conducting a choir of 1,000 voices at Walt Disney Concert Hall? And then on Monday, you're back in the boardroom creating a framework for how we're going to build organizational capacity for grantee partners.
Wow.
And that's because I have been dogmatic about saying the way that I want my career to go is that I think I can hold both things. I can be my full creative self and my full, I guess you could say, like maybe academic self,
Yeah.
and develop both parts of those pieces, and they help and influence the other.
Yeah.
So I've been lucky that I've been able to do that. I never take it for granted. And I think it's a good model, if even for artists, on how we participate in society. You don't have to, or for anyone, you don't have to do the narrow thing because
Yeah.
that's what people would understand.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
say, yeah, I can do this and I can do that at a level of excellence. So I'm going to pursue it. I'm going to go after both.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing. So it's always funny if somebody knows me. I remember I was at the Kennedy Center one day, and there was a group of people at the Kennedy Center who knew me from my policy education work, right?
Yeah.
And I showed up at a dinner where I was being honored for my creative community work, and they were
Yeah.
like, "You what? I don't,
Huh? Who? What?
you," and it's like, yeah, because people don't normally do both of those things.
Yeah.
But it's possible, and we got to give space for people to flesh out the life that they deserve. So,
Yes, and it
yeah,
speaks to vision, and I love it just as a multi hyphenate, right? That
yeah,
so often when we think about professional development and things that people have maybe gone through over the course of their career, it's really pushing them into these kind of narrow veins to build influence. Like if you're doing too much, you're seen to be scatterbrained, right? It
yes,
needs to be
absolutely.
strategic, right? It needs to be strategic. But I love how you've been able to craft that space, not only to serve in these different places, but back to your definition of Black woman leading and the examples, to also have something for you, right? That
Right.
creative energy, the creative outcome, being able to produce and things of that sort. So I love that. And I'd like to ask you, like, as you are now, first time CEO, and in this strategic level, you mentioned, like, I'm not in the classroom anymore. I'm in these different spaces. What has surprised you about that transition, right?
Sure.
Leading at this higher level, strategic level now as the CEO of the organization. What has surprised you, if anything, about that transition in your leadership?
Yeah, I think what has surprised me the most about how it doesn't feel very different.
Okay.
One of the things that I used to tell my students, like maybe we're in class and like something's not going well, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to do this." I'm saying, "Look, excuse me, you don't want to do it. You're bored. I'm bored too. Like we're
Yeah.
all in here together, right? This is, yeah. You think you're bored? I'm bored too. I'm looking at
Yes.
what you're doing. Let's figure it out together? How
Yeah.
we can elevate what we're all doing so that it's more exciting for all of us, right?"
Yes.
And so this idea of like the time we're all spending together is a joint venture. It's always the way I taught. I always taught in this way of like, it's not the person on the podium disseminating information to the
Yeah.
masses. Like, no, we're all a team working together.
Yeah.
I find that as I've ascended in different ways, I've taken that with me. That's not the way that business usually works, but
Yeah.
I make space to bring that because I know that works. So I'm
Yep.
carrying all of that with me up into the boardroom. I'm saying, no, let's use consensus to make our decisions. Yeah,
And
we
they
could
like, you
go.
the boss. So
Yeah,
what we gotta ask
exactly.
them for?
Yeah, you can decide, or how can we make our decision making more transparent? Because sometimes I am going to make a decision, and that's the end, right?
Yeah,
And so going into it, and I'm not going to manipulate you and say, "Hey, I just want to get everybody's," and in reality, I already decided. Let's
exactly.
be right. Like that's not real. So it's like using some of those strategies and things I know about building teams, building community. I use that now in my work, and it's really been helpful. In Baltimore, we have a youth development ecosystem that has produced some of our local communities' best and brightest leaders, and also people who've gone on to do incredible things nationally, right?
Yeah,
And so that's wonderful. But also, when we look, there's a lot of fractionalization. The nonprofit industrial complex does not encourage collaboration. People don't know what somebody's doing on the east side of town versus the west side of town. And
yeah,
so, coming into this and being asked to make strategic decisions that impact that ecosystem so harshly, possibly, right?
yeah. Harshly,
Like,
right.
sure,
Yeah.
we'll do that, but we got to do it in collaboration. You right. You may not like all the decisions that we're going to make, but we got to get feedback up front. We got to define the problems with the people. Like we
Yes,
got to
with
do
the
all of it. And
people.
where did I learn that? I learned that from choir, right?
Yep.
It's like in choir, it's like the voice of like one person can ruin a whole performance.
Hello.
We need everybody. It's so critical. Everybody's ship has to be raised to the same level. We have to be patient and wait for everybody to get there. And we've got to make decisions together. If we all decide that this song has a sad mood and somebody in the back is in the back smiling like this, the whole
Yeah.
thing is ruined. So we've all got to come to a consensus on like what direction are we moving in and how can we go together. So
Yeah.
I utilize that a lot in the way that I solve problems. I utilize that in the way that I approach like solution making,
Hmm.
and I'm really proud of that. Like the way that Lucille Clifton is the one who said, we cannot create what we can't imagine. And so when
Mm.
you're asking people to reimagine an ecosystem or a relationship between funding and programming, right?
Yeah.
You're utilizing skills that you hopefully practice in your painting or visual art or
Yeah.
dance space where those skills of imagination and creativity. And so that's I think the leadership blend that I bring is just making space and going, oh, we got to pause. We might have to pause here
Yeah.
because we don't have enough information. We're smart, we're brilliant, sure. The people in the boardroom are brilliant and smart, but perspective is also a kind of wisdom that has to be present when decisions are made.
Yeah.
And so just acknowledging like when that's not present, let's do some work to build community so that we
Yeah.
can work together to make this ecosystem as bright and vibrant as it can be.
I love it, and the perspective taking requires space, right?
Yes, that's right.
Uh, and this creativity that you're talking about, when we had our intro call, I talked about how like I already was feeling some warmth and affinity with you just from the youth development angle. And I don't, some of our listeners know if they've been listening for a while, but the very first leg of my career, probably about 12 years of my career, I was a youth development professional, right?
Yeah.
Developing programs. And I think that creativity of really, and I was young then, I was in my 20s.
Mm.
And I remember having to fight sometimes with
Mm.
my leadership
Yes.
to have young people at the table as real critical voices, not just the recipients of the service. And the stuff that they brought helped us to transform a lot of the program. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember one nonprofit I used to work for, and we did a lot of getting kids to college, some workforce development stuff with teenagers in Chicago. And I remember some of the suggestions of the young people when we really let them come in valid, not just tokenized, but when we really let them have a place at the table, put them on the committees, we end up getting awards for that program. Them suggestions came from them young
Yeah.
people. That
Yeah.
did not come from them old stale people around that table. And
That's it.
so I think that's even having that lens that you have really lends to the creativity when we value the voices of young people as real, having something really to say, having something really to say, that shifts a lot of that work. Nowadays, I get my youth development piece from my 16-year-old daughter.
Okay. That's enough. Yeah.
I have to remember to balance that, right? Because I was the cool auntie and now I'm the mama. And I'm like, okay, am I encroaching on her? Am I being my rightful parental space or am I encroaching? Am I killing the spirit here? You have to navigate
You
that.
have to navigate it.
Yes. So I think that youth piece really brings some life to this kind of creativity and leadership that you're talking about as
Yes,
well.
and that it's the same with everything.
Yeah.
You're serving any marginalized, because young people are marginalized in our
Yes.
country.
Yes.
Right? Youth is marginalized. They don't have rights to vote. They don't have full autonomy over a lot of their time and space. If you're working with any marginalized group,
Yeah.
you're making any decisions for people, and nothing about us without us, and they're not present for
Yeah.
even the beginning of defining the problem.
Exactly.
You think is the problem, you know and in our community, like people are like, oh, these kids, they're always outside. That becomes the problem. The kids are outside. Well, that's easy. The solution is tell them to go inside.
Exactly.
Right. That's the problem. But when we talk to young people, they say, well, I'm looking for opportunities to explore my passions, and I'm not
Yeah.
able to find them. Okay, well, that's a different solution, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of programs here in Baltimore, and we got to do better at matchmaking you to the program that meets your passion. Well, those are different solutions. They
Different
produce
solutions.
different outcomes for young people,
Yeah.
because we define the problem with the people who are most impacted, and that's hard because the people most impacted by problems are usually not the people with power,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because then you'd be able to, you have the resources, so you would have solved your own problems differently.
Yep.
So, making that space and time to slow down, to get everybody. I love how you said, like, bringing people in, not tokenized, because
Yep.
people be present but don't have voice and agency. They don't have
Yep.
room to make
Yep.
decisions. And so that's about, like, leveling that playing field before people get there. It's a lot of work, but it's
Yeah.
good work that's
It's good work.
possible, when we imagine.
Yeah, and I think just even to that point, as we start to transition and talk about what is community-led leadership, because we're into the conversation, right? But I think about it's about people having a voice, right, to be able to define not only the problem and the solution, but you said something earlier. There's a piece here about, many of the things we're doing in this vein is about trying to create solutions. But there is also a piece of creating harm unintentionally,
Correct.
right? And even in our best intentions. And I will never forget one of the programs when I was in my youth development era. I used to run teen employment programs for the city of Chicago. So the problem was these kids outside, or these kids robbing people, or these kids needed some money, like to eat, not
Correct.
even just for clothes and stuff, right?
Mhm.
So for a good 8 years, I ran the city's summer employment program, and how we got young people jobs all over the city to decrease the crime rates, because then they had something to do and it was mentoring and all of that. But I will never forget, one year we were kind of plotting out, and this was a logistical thing because the young people were from the 77 communities all over the city of Chicago. We had employers that would work with us, but then you got to match them because you don't want them to have to travel too far. It was just a whole logistical nightmare, and we had to do this. And I will never forget, we had some young people that their job was interning with us to create the program, right?
Right.
They were in the office, they were doing something else, and me and the coordinator for the program, we had like the city of Chicago maps up, and we trying to match the people from this community could go to these employers that's working with us. And a young man came over and he said, that's not gonna work. And we frustrated. We've been at this doggone map all day. We ain't have Chat GPT and all that then to do this stuff for us. And so I'm looking at him like, sir, you need to go mind your business, because I'm trying to figure out where you're gonna go. And I said, why it's not gonna work? With attitude, because I'm tired at this point. And he said, if you send them people from that community there, I know it's just 2 bus rides, but you're gonna get them killed. He like, this community don't fool with that community. It don't matter that it's an 8-minute bus ride. And I was like, oop, okay, get me together. And he informed that whole thing. He's like, these people, it's going to be an extra bus ride, but trust me, they'll be okay over there. We didn't know that. We didn't know that. We just didn't know that, right? And so, yeah, that's a very tangible harm example. But when we think about this, even if I think about our work in organizations, right, with working with Black women in organizations, if we're not talking to the people, you can be trying to do your best and you are causing harm.
That's
You're
right.
causing harm by not listening to these people. So this is good. This is good.
That's a
Let's
great example.
Yeah, let's dive a little bit more into this community-led leadership. I would love to hear, because this is a philosophy that you all lead with, not just in concept, but in your operationalized systems at your organization.
Mm.
Can you talk about what's your definition of that community-led leadership? And how would you say it's different from the traditional kind of expert-driven or institutional centered leadership?
Absolutely. Community led organizations, or organizations where community members have decision making power. And, if we think about like engaging community or engaging leadership from community on a spectrum, of course you can do nothing at all.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
the first piece, is just maybe just to get some feedback. Like, we have this program, we've developed it, we think it's going to work. We'd like your feedback before we deploy it so we can elevate it in some way.
Yeah.
And that's one level of being engaged with community. A second level would be to say, we want some collaboration, meaning we've identified a problem, we've come up with some solutions. We want you to weigh in with us as we develop the project.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final stage where we try to sit as much as we can is in the co-creation.
Okay.
And that's where community, and that takes the most time and it involves the most humans. And when humans enter a system,
hello,
the system deregulates. Okay, that's what happens, right? So oftentimes there's just not time, resource, and sometimes interest, sometimes, but usually it's time and resource in really co-creating something with community.
Yeah.
And so that's where we think of as leadership. It's not just like, oh, you're around, we listen to you. It's more of you helped us to we see a problem, we see a kink in the hose, and we ask you to come over, and instead of us deciding what the problem is, that shapes what the solutions can be, we ask you to help us define it. And I can share an example. When I first came on board at BCYF, the Children and Youth Fund, we had a real compliance issue. So part of our approach to grant making is that 75% of our grant making dollars are for direct grants, dollars on the streets, but 25% are reserved for capacity building. But the organization was new. We hadn't built those programs out.
Got it.
So folks were kind of flying blind a bit, and the compliance was low, and it was 32%. Okay, that's not enough. So that means dollars aren't on the streets. People aren't actually getting, to build their programs to support young people. And this is our fund is a voter approved fund. The city of Baltimore, 80% of our city voted to create the Baltimore Children and Youth Fund. So we want 80% of our city, we want our dollars in program space. We want to see tangible results that young people are getting access to the programs that matter to them. And those programs are accountable to community.
And higher scrutiny too, I would say.
The highest level
under the magnifying glass. Yeah.
Because they're government dollars, but also we are the only ones in our region. We have grant dollars that we are explicitly saying are devoted to advancing youth leadership and racial equity.
Got it.
That's not how other government dollars are being, especially in this climate. Okay? So there's a level of scrutiny. There's a level of frustration, I would say, with that plan. But that's what the community voted for.
Yeah.
So in looking at that, a top-down approach would be to say, number one, it's frustrating for us because it's like, man, we're not able to do what we need to do. We could create more restrictions on the compliance. We could create more checkpoints and balances to make it to try to like, almost like people are amazed and like keep them on the line.
Punitive. Yes.
Tighter so that people have no choice but to walk in the direction that we want.
Yeah.
What we did was we said, we know from our perspective what's going on, but we don't know from theirs.
Yeah.
So we created a task force of grantees, and we worked with them for 8 months to identify the top problems that were leading. Like, what are the hot roots? What's the root cause of why these compliance numbers are there? Yeah. We learned some new things about the ways that, especially grassroots organizations, Black-led organizations. So these are organizations, grassroots organizations on their own, only nationally receive about 2% of philanthropic dollars. So these are
Mm,
organizations that, because of how we think about grassroots approaches, philanthropy doesn't invest there, and
yeah.
neither do citizens, right?
Yeah.
And then black-led organizations also get a tiny percentage. So when you have a black-led grassroots organization, you're talking about an organization that's not getting
Wow.
sustainable dollars. People that's being led by folks, a lot of folks doing fish dinners on Sundays to pay for the program,
Hello. Yeah.
investing their own dollars into helping other people's children to be able to fulfill their potential, right?
Yeah.
And so that's stressful and lonely.
And
And
lonely.
sometimes that's all there is like, I'm so stressed out, and this additional reporting requirement doesn't, I had to choose between sleep and the report, and I chose sleep. I had to
Because they're
choose.
like, I love the kids. I'm just trying to help the kids. And
I'm
now
just
you
trying
need
to
me to
help
do all this
the kids.
stuff. Yeah.
And I don't have anybody helping me. I got to feed my
Yeah.
kids when I get home after I help other people's kids.
Yes. Oh, I remember that life. Oh my God.
I've spent the day with other people's children, and then I have to come home and get my kids ready
Yes.
for school, fed, washed, bathed. I don't have the time and the
The
capacity, especially when we
capacity.
talk about mothers and women and the burden of invisible work that
Yep.
happens from women once they get home, right? It was a lot. And so this
Yeah.
idea of then, well, what is the solution here?
Mm.
And there's a learning opportunity solution and a networking and engagement solution. That's different than being like, get into this row.
Yeah.
Instead, how can we build out some more capacity of some of your peers to be helpful
Yes.
in helping to create more space for shared resource, right? Because you don't have enough you don't have enough resource, right?
Yeah.
Can we share resources? Can we get a group of people that all live on the west side together, and you all share a grant writer and a grant manager to do this
Yes.
for you,
Yes.
right? If these 6 organizations that didn't really know each other can build a little trust so that they can hire someone together who will know all their information, right?
Yeah.
Not feel uncomfortable. How can we also better equip leaders to make those selections?
That's good.
Because also people were being, it's like, look, you're a small organization and you are in dire straits and you're desperate. People take advantage of that.
Yes, they
You're
do.
buying services from people. And I'm like, well, what are they supposed to be doing for you? How come they're not doing the reports? Oh, I don't know.
They like they doing something over there
They
that I don't know about.
I'm like, what? So helping people to elevate their job as steward and leader, right? Because
Yes.
I always say to them, you think Jeff Bezos does the finance reports over at Amazon? That's not what we're trying to get you to do. And that's where a lot of, especially Black women leaders, get pushed. It's like, well, then you should learn how to do everything.
No.
Why? Why should I not learn how to be a leader? A leader knows the information and is
Yes.
able to make the right selection around who's going to steward that appropriately and what information needs to come back to me so I know it's done correctly.
Yes.
Even helping people with those pieces. So that's where we focused our
That's good.
professional learning, was on building relationship with folks, right? So that we could have more trust in the ecosystem, and building up the leadership skills that you need to be a person who manages a nonprofit in Baltimore. What information do you need when you see a 990? What should you know as the leader? You don't fill it out yourself.
Exactly.
You need to know, what information do you need to know so that you can confidently say, yes, this represents my organization. You are responsible for that.
Yeah.
So that's where we focus. We didn't
love
talk
that.
about how do you fill out the finance reports. Everybody, that's you know how to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have the capacity. And so we've been focusing on capacity building from a place of time and bandwidth, right?
Yeah. And mindset, it sounds like too.
And
A little
mindset.
mindset shift.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
That's where we focused our time. Within 1 year, our compliance rate went from 32% to 90% in 1 year.
Wow.
And then, it's been 3 years since, and we've just gone up 92,
That's amazing.
94.
Amazing.
So focusing on what do people really need to be successful, not from a place of what do I need as the president, because I can't be running an organization and you got 32% compliant. Like,
Hello.
my ego is in there too. Like, oh, look, everybody needs to do better.
You're like, you
right?
ain't gonna have me out in these streets.
Yeah, you're not gonna have me out in these streets advocating for more grant dollars, and y'all got 30% of the compliance. But instead of that, instead of coming up with some top-down approach that is punitive, or short-sighted, because people could have said, actually, can we have more touch points? Like, I don't get this,
Yeah.
But it wasn't that. It wasn't that people didn't understand. It was about like a more of a holistic
A
approach,
sustainability thing too. Yeah.
sustainability, and we all can understand when we think about who really runs the nonprofit sector. Yes, we know overwhelmingly white women's leadership is mostly present in the nonprofit sector, but when you talk about grassroots approaches that came out of community, it
Yeah.
becomes Black women.
It becomes Black women who
Black
saw
women are
something
leading
in
this
the
work.
community where they
Yes.
live in and decided to do something about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's not to invalidate the work of Black men in the space, but
No.
it's predominantly Black women leaders who then we know are being there's Black women leaders are then there's a tendency for all of us to misunderstand the pain or
Yeah.
the weight that we're applying when a Black woman is holding it.
Yep.
You don't see it the same. I have a friend that I always talk about. Whenever a Black woman ED leaves, she's always replaced by 2 or 3 people. Like the position never can be filled.
That's just been working. That's just been working.
It's like, oh, well, you were doing all that. Well, we're gonna have to split. Oh, we're gonna need a CFO and a this time because nobody's gonna do all that work.
Ain't nobody's gonna do it.
Nobody's gonna do it. But we do it. And we got to stop doing that. But we do it because it needs to be done, and we can hold a lot. And just because we can doesn't mean we should.
We should.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, this is so good because no matter, even though we're talking about the nonprofit sector, those 3 levels that you reference can be utilized for leaders in whatever segment, right? And so can you just real quick, boom, 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 hit the 3 again, just so they top of mind for people listening?
The very bottom is feedback. Maybe a feedback survey or, after the fact, but the solution's already in place. The plan is already in place. We do want your feedback, right?
Feedback.
At the very least, you can do that.
Yep. Level 1.
Yeah. Level 2 is going to be that collaborative moment around, we have, I would say I think of it as like a chaff, right?
Okay.
We've defined the problem already. And we have some solutions and we want you to help us select
which direction to go.
Part, maybe even an implementation, right? Okay. But we're already on a path. So you coming in saying, "Well, actually, it's over there." That's not where. So
you joining along the journey on level correct. 2. The journey is going, but you join it. Okay,
and we want you to join in, and that you can do midstream. You can say, "Oh, you know what? Maybe we should have invited more people to the table. But look, it's been a year. This project has a limited funding window. We can't start over. Right? But we can add. But it's once we realize we don't have any community voices, we can add them now.
Okay,
and we can get them going in the right direction. And the highest level is co-creation, meaning we recognize that there's a disruption in the force. There's something that just doesn't smell right. There's something not passing the smell test. We bring all the players together. And we all come up and define the problem together before we create the solutions and the measures that we'll use to track success. And then we implement the program together and we monitor it together.
I love it.
So we're on a pathway together and we all have equal buy-in. And oftentimes when you start there, number one, it takes more time and it's more work. But also the beginning work is the level setting because you've got power dynamics all ripping and running through there. And so you have to establish some rules of engagement around how in this body, in this room, all voices are the same. Or sometimes these voices are more important.
Yeah.
So like funders fall back. Funders and practitioners are not the same.
Yes.
And so let's let them talk first and give their brainstorms first.
Okay.
So that we can really hear. You can do it with young people. Same thing, young people. Let's let the young people brainstorm first, and we're all going to fishbowl and we're all going to listen. If you're not a young person, once they've exhausted their opportunity, then we'll hear from some other voices.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's also an approach, right? But that co-creation happens, and that's the highest level of engagement and leadership. And that's what we're all looking for in terms of like being able to really feel confident about moving forward with an equity solution that's least likely to cause harm. And that's most likely to be successful. And to get those, like you said, award-winning programs come from those kinds of rooms.
Well, you're just giving the people a masterclass today, honey, in this community-led leadership. If you all are listening, those 3 levels, if you take nothing away, you could apply that in your decisions you got to make on your team within the organizations. If you have some type of diverse stakeholders with external internal, cross functional. It doesn't really matter who the players are. Those three levels can really help to create this type of community led leadership. And it's really interesting. Just what was it, a couple of days ago, we had an alumni session with our alums from Black Women Leading, and continuing to support them on their journey. They all did the mid-career program, so they're senior level leaders. It was maybe about 4 different industries represented there. It was healthcare industry there, for-profit, lots of kind of for-profit. There was some nonprofit folks, and it even was some local government. Okay.
Oh,
So
nice.
leaders in all of these areas. And one of the activities we do when some of our alums get together are masterminds. So it's just peer learning. We bring our challenges to the round table, and you have this collective mind that helps you determine what are some action items you can take, maybe some perspectives you can consider, etc. And as you're talking about these 3 levels, as I think about the challenges that people were bringing, there was a theme around challenges with change management, resistance. Sometimes it was, we realized after the fact, we needed to talk to some more people before we wrote this out. Other times is, I'm trying to do something with leaders, but maybe my execs are pushing back against me. And every single person, I don't care what industry they in, could have used that model of those 3 steps to come up with a solution. So I'm saying that to you listeners. If you are listening and you desire to have a more equity-based type of leadership that you're doing, you could start at nothing else, level 1,
Right.
to integrate. But Alysia is really just giving you a beautiful framework that you could see what kind of influence do you have as a leader that you might integrate some of this wherever you are. It works for any sector. It works for any sector.
Yes, it does.
So this is good. I do want to ask you a little bit about, because when we had our kind of pre-intro call, you talked about some of the inner work required. I want to go to a little bit of heart work here, because we're talking some tactical head work now, but I want to go a little bit to the heart work. You talked about some of the inner work required to do that shift from just expert driven, I'm the boss, I'm the leader, to that more community led framework. Can you share your insights on that, and any insights about personally what that looked like for you, that kind of
Yeah.
mindset shift?
Well,
Yeah.
I was trained as a classical musician, so
Okay.
I think it's always really helpful to start with that. Classical musicians have been taught, number one, that in a space there are experts and geniuses, and then there are followers. Okay, there's a conductor of the orchestra, and he usually, but they are the brilliant genius that'll be driving all of the work, making all the artistic decisions, and your job is to bring their vision to life.
Got it.
Your job as a choir member is to bring the vision of the composer, who's not even in the room with us anymore, right? Because they've passed away. To bring this Italian 1752 person to bring their vision to life. And when you deviate from that, maybe you have an artistic idea, that's not valuable. Okay. What's valuable is the adherence to the vision of the genius in the room. And so what that does, and it's not intentional to do, but what it does is it creates an atmosphere where you second guess or don't understand the brilliance of everyone around you. You don't understand your own brilliance.
Wow.
Your own, that you have ideas. And so the way that when I was a teacher, the way that I would teach about music was from a place that was different. We would still learn about classical music and jazz and all these other kinds of music making. But it was this idea of like, this was one person's opinion. Because that's all it is. Beethoven is a person just like you, baby, and it don't look exactly.
Hello, yes.
And most importantly, he's no longer with us. What he left behind should not be heralded as the definitive of anything. It should be heralded as a perspective.
Yes.
And that is enough. Like, that's cool enough. Isn't that
that's a paradigm shift right there, though?
Yes, it is. And when we talk about, I used to always say this thing to frustrate classical music people. I still say it. I always say Brahms is usually considered one of the best love cycle songwriters of our time. Okay. And I always tell people, but the Lemonade album, the Lemonade album is better than any Brahms song cycle, baby. I'm sorry. It is more explosive, because that's the whole point here is We can stand and learn from the
Yeah.
perspectives of people from the past. And it's still critical that the perspective of the people in the room with us
Yes.
are more important than the perspectives of the people that are not present. And
Wow.
so that is challenging for classical music people to hear. You mean to tell me we should do Beethoven 9 and we should take the theme of nationalism and maybe ask everybody what nationalism means to them and use
Wow.
that to decide how we perform the piece instead of just doing what Beethoven said? You mean to tell me Beethoven's voice doesn't matter more? No, it doesn't. He's not even here. He's not in the
Wow.
room with us, right? He left something for us to reflect on. And
Yeah.
that's what the art is. So from there, thinking about that for me as an artist has been illuminating because I didn't know, even when I got my master's degree, that my artistic voice really mattered.
Yeah.
I went to Peabody Conservatory, the best conservatory in the world, of course. And I still am, I'm an adjunct there. And when I work with students there, I constantly tell them, I don't want to hear anything about somebody else. I want to hear about your perspective.
Yes. Yes.
So, right, the music will fall into place. You know the notes, you know the rhythms. You're brilliant. That's why you got into Peabody. I'm interested in understanding how the ideas that this is a conversation opportunity.
Yeah.
This person who's no longer with us was compelled to express their feelings on motherhood.
Yeah.
Okay, you have a mother too. We all do. I want to know what you think about this topic. And then how does that then create an explosive conversation that feels vibrant and alive? And I
Yeah.
think that's what real artistry is. We see it in other art forms. You would never have a blues player that's like, hey, or a jazz musician, like, I'm just going to recreate what Coltrane did. It's like, nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah. We got that.
We
We
already
can
got
listen
that.
to that. Yeah, we can
Right.
listen
We
to
don't want to
that.
have the recreation that has none of your
Yeah.
soul in it. No thanks. Classical music, we do want to hear those recreations.
Yeah.
And that's changing because there are more artists that are thinking in these ways of no. Like, what is a canon? Who are we saying is excellent?
Yeah.
Isn't there room for us all? What that translates to in community and space is like the validity of like the idea that it's important for you to show up
Yeah.
and it's important for you to feel confident about sharing your perspective. And when you can, make room for others to do so as well.
Yeah.
And so that's, to me, people do ask me a lot, like, how do I do all these different things? I really don't feel like I do anything different all day.
Yeah.
When later tonight, I'm going to have a music rehearsal. I'm conducting an all-state choir in a few weeks. I'm going to rehearse the music. That doesn't feel different than talking right now because
Yeah.
as I'm preparing for those rehearsals, I'm thinking, how can I help these young people to show up and perform this music with a personal understanding
Yeah.
of their perspective on the themes? And when I plan a meeting about professional learning opportunities, I'm thinking, how can I get all of my team members to feel a personal connection to
Yeah.
the why of why we're doing, it just never feels very different to me because the work I do, I know for me is so rooted in what I care about.
Yeah.
And so that shift that I had as a musician has affected the way that I show up in other places and spaces, and it has made me a better person, I think.
Yeah.
But it comes from, like the juxtaposition for me as being trained as a classical musician, but growing up listening to music that wasn't made with those ideas. My
Yeah.
dad was a singer, and he was in a boy band as a kid. And so that idea of like even setting the harmonies for his little quartet. What you mean you don't care what I think? Every voice matters, okay?
Exactly.
We're all in this together. And so seeing people make music in being in a gospel choir at church, seeing people make music in these more collaborative ways, I was like, well, how come this feels so different?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so making space for that. And that's, lived experience and being able to be like, to crystallize, like, I know this to be true.
Yeah.
I know this to be true. Standing forward, standing strong in that. So when you're in another space, you're like, no, no, no. It don't have to be like this. It don't have
It
to
don't
feel
have
like
to
this.
be. We got options. Yeah,
We
we
got
got options.
options. Music making can be joyful. We don't have to
Yeah.
be in here all nervous and everybody's scared. We don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that really has been a lot of the way that I've unlocked. And the second thing is, and I'll say quickly, is being
Yeah.
a classical musician, you have to choose a narrow pathway. It's like you're a singer, you're an instrumentalist, you're a conductor, you're a composer. You're not all these things. That's crazy. And
Yeah.
if you want to do all those things, people think you're scattered.
Yeah.
You're not focused. I have always been a person that wanted, but it was like, oh, but that's not how you do it, right?
Yeah.
And in my 30s, because I was working with young people, I didn't feel comfortable to tell young people, like, no, 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 I want to write a song. Oh, no, 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 you can't do that. It's like, wait a minute, how can I tell them?
How can I
And then,
tell them that when I'm trying to
right,
help them
that
to
don't seem right.
be
Yeah,
their spark? Yeah.
that don't seem right. And so in order for me to help them, I had to help myself unlock in myself. You're
Yes.
capable. You could compose. You have never done it before, but you have knowledge and you have ideas and creativity. You could compose. And so I composed a piece. That piece was picked up and published by the largest music publisher in the country. It's performed
Wow.
all around the world. Say her name. And I've written other pieces and gotten other commissions from choirs
Yeah.
because I took the chance, because I knew, well, yeah, we're not limited to these small, narrow pathways. But it was
Yeah.
scary to break out of a shell and to say, I'm going to try new things. But it's always beneficial when it's not for ego. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I realize like there's a greater potential here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Ooh, this is so good. Because I'm hearing a couple of things as far as like what's the mindset shift. There's something, if I distill out kind of what's really resonating with me, it's this really seeing value from a multitude of angles. It's not just this one thing that has become the standard, maybe, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not just this one thing. And then the other thing you said that really resonated with me was when you were talking about the old composers that's not here anymore. How are they more important than us that are here? And
Yes.
so the importance of not just context acknowledging, but context creation.
Yes.
Like that was cool then. That ain't what the kids doing now. Like we
That's
got to
right.
do we
That's
got to
right.
do something else. We have to
That's
do
right.
something else. So I
And think about
love
all
that.
the ways we do that now in community, right? Where we're like, well, we don't want those people on the other side of town to be upset, right? We don't want that
Yeah.
wealthy leader who has a lot. He's not even showing up for these meetings. His voice don't matter in this. He's
Yeah.
not here. How
Yeah.
does this not matter more? The neighbors who came to the neighborhood association meeting, we're sitting here worried about the media scrutiny. Let's not worry
Yep.
about that. They're
Yep.
not here because they're not relevant in the conversation,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So when you're not there, you miss out.
Yep.
You want to
Yep.
be if you want to be a part of the conversation, you want your voice to matter, you got to show up. If you don't
Yep.
show up, whether it's because you're from the past or because you really don't care that much, you just want
Yeah.
to be oppressive, your voice can't matter the same as the
Yeah.
people who are like, I
In the
showed up.
room, there,
Right.
present.
You have
Listen,
to be in the room where it happens.
I tell the black woman leading all the time, those who show up, go up, baby.
Oh,
So
I love that.
you need to
That's
get in
it.
the room, get
That's
in the
it.
room.
That's
Okay,
it.
this is good. I want to ask you maybe one more question. Then I do want to ask you a few of our seasons themes questions
Okay.
before we wrap. But you work with such a broad expanse of stakeholders, right? Youth, community members, staff, funders, board members, policymakers, media, all of these different stakeholders. How do you move together when we think about this community? You know, you brought them to the table, and they all have some different expectations or some different definitions of success. What does the trust building look like when it is, we got to come together, make this decision, but I'm looking at you sideways because I feel a way about the politicians in the neighborhood, and I'm a community member or whatever the case. What does some of that look like in the work that you all are doing, that trust building?
Absolutely. We're getting ready to launch our biggest venture yet at the Children and Youth Fund. We're going to be holding space to be the convener for the creation of Baltimore's first youth master plan, a strategic
Wow.
plan for young people. It will determine BCYF resources and the ways that they're allocated. And it will also be a guidepost for what really matters to young people and how we'll measure success in the years to come. I grew up in Baltimore, so I remember being in my teens and attending meetings with people talking about creating a strategic plan for young people.
Wow.
Back in 19, was that 94, 95?
Wow.
And so to see it coming to fruition now is really important. But it will not be good if we don't have the eds and the meds, the funders, the government folks, the grassroots leaders, the
Yeah.
organization leaders, the young people, the families. It won't be good if we don't have the multitude of perspectives involved.
Yeah.
But we also know that part of the ways that our city is made, just like most cities, is there's a lot of fractionalization, and there has been some distrust
Yeah.
amongst those groups. And there's power dynamics. So even in the beginnings of coming together, we've been really diligent about laying out the plan with a mind around power.
Power.
So, for example, we started this process 2 years ago by traveling to Alabama's Legacy Museum to learn about racial equity from a location in our country that has. I mean, if you haven't been to the Legacy Museum down in Alabama, if you're listening, go in 2026. A really dynamic opportunity to engage with history and to see this really clear through line towards present day inequities that we see.
Yeah.
From there, we took that voyage together, that learning journey together, to learn about racial equity, but also to build relationships. We also took grassroots leaders. We took the people who are most proximate to the work.
Yeah.
Not everybody liked that. Right. It's like, why do they deserve to go? Oh, right. That helped us to spark some conversation about, well, if we're talking about elevating the youth development ecosystem to have a stronger youth equity lens, who should get the learning first?
Yes.
The people most proximate to the problem and the solutions.
Yeah.
Then we learned about youth master plans. And so we went down to do a learning journey with New Orleans, the city of New Orleans, who has the most incredible youth master plan in the country because it's so youth-centered.
Wow.
And so we took 80 people down to New Orleans to learn about the youth master plan, and we took grassroots nonprofit leaders. We didn't take the big CEOs. We didn't take our government folks. We didn't take the big wigs. And some of them said, well, I should have gone. How come I wasn't invited? That's exactly the point. We've reversed it. Right now, the people with the most information who are going to disseminate it, right, and going to trickle it down to you are the people that have the least amount of power.
Yeah.
Now they have another power ace, which is they have knowledge you don't have. You can come to the table with a more equal playing field. You know a lot and they know a lot, and you don't know what they know, and vice versa. But the information knowledge they have is very valuable. So we set up already a dynamic where the collaboration feels like, well, I've got to know and they've got to be here. Because otherwise it's like, well, what are they here for?
What are they here for? Right. And the knowledge with the context, knowledge with the context is just magic, right? You got the knowledge, big CEO, but you don't know nothing about these people everyday life. So the knowledge is useless in application. In application is
Exactly. So what we just, even in building towards the beginning, we made sure to constantly, and when people would say, well, that seems like something that I should have been invited to do. I said, you know what? Exactly. And you're always invited.
Yep.
You've never thought to reach back and make sure that, Tracy over on the East Side, who's been running a youth program for 10 years successfully, has all those children in her program. Sure, it's a small program, but 100% of her kids have gone on to college. She's whatever the case may be, right? You never thought, oh, you know what? I should bring her with me because you have resource at your organization. You could have brought her to that conference. You're talking about people who've never been to a professional conference because they've worked in youth development in these grassroots approaches for 20 years. They're not going to these big conferences and learning. And you could have been bringing them every year with you. You didn't think about that. Right. So we can come to the table and start to do that in a great way. The second thing we're doing is we're starting our first listening sessions are with young people. We don't want to hear from any adults. You have to be young, 0 to 24.
I don't count. I don't count.
That's right. We don't want to hear from you. And we're from adults later and young people that are participants in, I would say, more of the infrastructure side of the youth development ecosystem, because we're going to get their feedback, but not on the same questions we're asking young people.
Not
We're
on the
asking,
same
like,
questions.
yeah, exactly. It's different questions. We're asking you about the ecosystem here, how could it be stronger? How could we build an ecosystem where when a person has an idea for supporting young people in their community, like that idea can, especially when it's community accountable and has all those core pieces to be successful, like how can we make it so that Baltimore is a place where those programs can thrive? Like there's already
Yeah.
a network to kind of, okay, great, this is what you do next. Then
Yes.
you're already kind of tapping in. So we're going to ask the adults about those questions. We're not asking you what you think. Oh, it's school lunch, and we don't care. You don't go to
No.
school.
And
Don't
you
worry.
don't eat the lunch,
Yeah,
right?
you eat the lunch. You got Grubhub money. Don't worry about it. So we're diverting
I
who gets,
love it.
and that is challenging for some people too, right? It's like, well, when do we weigh in? Yeah, you'll weigh in after the young people have weighed in, because when you weigh in first, they're swayed by what you say because you're
Exactly. You guide the narrative. Yeah, you guide the narrative.
we letting them start, and we'll see where they come up with. Now, as a person who feels hip and cool because I have a TikTok or whatever, it's like I feel like, oh, I probably could guess
Yeah.
where some of those young people are going to land, right? And so I'm encouraging adults that are participating in this process with us to write it down, and let's see in the end, how close do we get? Because I
Yeah.
guarantee you will be surprised. You
You'd
know what
be
I'm
surprised.
saying? Yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna be surprised. So I think that's exciting to think about. But we're always looking for opportunities to infuse even the planning of the thing, the
Yes.
gearing up, how we announce it, how we get everybody on board to really be infused with obliterating power dynamics as much as we can. We're a funder.
Yeah.
It's easy as a funder to forget, like, oh, well, no, all the grantees said they love my idea. Yeah, what else they gonna say?
Yeah.
They're gonna
Because
tell
they
you,
want that money. They need that money to do what they got to do.
you signed
Yeah.
a check? Oh yeah, great idea, great idea. I love it. Yeah. So we have to remember that always. You always got to think about power dynamics when you're the one with the power,
Yeah.
and you work as much as you can to obliterate them. And so that's one of the ways that we do it, is even by just like setting
I
up the
love it.
frame for who goes first, who
I
who
love
matters
it.
the most in this scenario, who do we want to
Yeah.
hear from the most. Yeah.
Yeah. And from an equity standpoint, this challenges us to really interrogate our definitions of worth.
Yes.
Right. And our definition. When you say, why I should have been able to go and not them, you saying they not worthy. Is what you
That's
saying.
correct.
That's what you saying. So
That's
it requires us as leaders, if we're challenged with trying to infuse some of this community-led leadership, there is some sitting with some questions that we need to do around who am I assigning as worthy in this situation? And whatever that answer is, what is that saying about me and the
yes.
role and the power and how I'm meting out my power? It's some inner work there. There's some
Yes.
inner work there. Yeah, some
And don't
inner
be
work there.
surprised if, the patriarchy, white supremacy culture,
Yeah,
racism has influenced some of the ways you think about who's
of
worthy.
course. Of course.
And so we can never be too scared to be like, oh, look, there's some anti-blackness in there.
Yes.
Right? It's like, okay, well,
There's some internalized depression going
yeah,
on over here. Yes.
hopefully find some black love in there as well, and say, okay,
Yes.
we can overcome that because we have it. And where we think investment really is the most powerful is
Yeah.
one of those ways that I think are good litmus tests for leaders. And you got to ask those questions privately before you ask them in public, because you don't want to embarrass
Exactly.
yourself.
You don't want
Because
to embarrass
where we
yourself.
think investment should be, like, who really is going to make the most use of this investment?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I could talk to you about this all day, but I got to at least ask you one of our season's theme questions.
Okay.
Before we make that transition, I just want to kind of put some closure here. Let's say someone is listening. They've been inspired. They may be in a totally different industry, but they're inspired about how they can, in their own leadership, bring forth, one level 1, 2, 3, or some of the things that you shared today. Any kind of final thoughts, words of encouragement, advisory, whatever that you would give them on trying to make more space for community-led leadership?
Absolutely. I would say the main thing is we always can do more.
Yeah.
So wherever you find yourself, there's no shame. It's not like, oh, I wish I missed an opportunity. Even if you had done it great the last time, you can still do better this time.
Yeah.
Right. So it's always great to be able to jump in. I think frameworks like the one I've shared today can be helpful to say, okay, I'm gonna jump in at this first level, right? And then where can I go next?
Yeah.
But you know, we're all in a state, especially with the current political scenario that we're
Yes.
living in, and the social climate too. Right now in 2026, there's a lot of things that the ground is shifting so much.
Yes.
So it's a great time to be bold. It's a great time to be strong and to stand with others, right? And it's a great time to start, you
Yeah.
know? And so there's just no regret about what we haven't done in the past. It's like a great opportunity to improve on the next one. And so we're always
Yeah.
in that state of improving. And so, yeah, jump in where you can and build up that muscle as you go. But no shame, no
No
regret.
shame.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Everybody's doing the best that they can. And so I think it's always great not to feel like, well, I don't know, maybe because I haven't done this before, or
Yeah.
am I worthy of being a person that has this equity solution? And you are,
Yep.
you are. You can do it.
I love it. I love it. So I do want to just shift for a second to our season's theme of leaning into joy. Right. And I
Mm,
think a lot of our conversation feels in that direction already. But I'd love to ask you, as a real life Black woman leading, what does leading with joy look like for you at this stage of your career these days?
sure. Leading with joy for me looks like um, being very mindful of my time and my boundaries.
Yeah.
It's really important to me. You know, we think about that life wheel, you know. Um, I have a real vision for how I want my life to continue to go.
Yeah.
And that means being strong and excited and joyful about enforcing those boundaries. And I think
Yeah.
as women and as Black women, sometimes it's hard to say no or not yet, or to say, no, we don't do it like that over here, you know.
Yeah.
But I want to encourage us all to lean into that. So, you know, it's important to me that I have space. If I'm a composer, I have to compose. So it's
Yeah.
important to me that I have space and time for my artistic pursuits. It's also
Yeah.
important that I spend time with my niece and nephew. It's also important that I, you know, get my board of directors on the right track. And it's important that I understand the operations manual for my business. And so it's like, you know, being able to do that in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming means I have to be careful with my boundaries. I can't say yes to everything. I can't
Yeah.
be where everybody wants me to be. And understanding that and being transparent about that. Just saying, oh, you know, I want to be where you're asking me to be, right? But that would require me to not be true to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying no to you. I'm just saying yes to me.
Yes.
And I think I know there's been a lot of conversation. I had a wonderful mentor text me the other day and say, I know that you she invited me to a weekend event. I hope she watches this. She'll know her. She invited me to a weekend event, which I can't wait to come. And she said, I know you have a lot of boundaries on the weekends, but I
Yeah.
hope you'll join me. And I thought to myself, that's so wonderful, because yes, I do. And
Yeah.
I will join you, right? But and she wasn't saying it from a place of, because we've often shamed women for having boundaries.
Hello.
Celebrating. Like, yes, I know you'll tell me if you can't make it, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just encourage women to do that. You know, our life, we only get one life that we remember, you know, at least. And so to be able to design it so that it feels like what you want. This is like I used to tell my students, you bored, I'm bored too. We're all living together. I have a life too.
Right, right.
I wanna
I'm
sit
ready to go home too, right?
Exactly. Look, I don't want to sit there for 45 minutes and just be, you know, like, oh, we got to listen to this. So yeah,
Yeah.
I want to be excited too.
Yeah.
And we deserve that. We're
We
not
deserve
bystanders
it.
in our own lives. We deserve to feel like full designers. And that requires boundaries and
Yeah.
setting boundaries. And so, yeah, I think that's how I maintain joy, is by being really intentional about that vision that I have. And then, yeah, not taking on too much, you know,
Yeah.
like just being like, yeah, saying no. 10 years ago, if any opportunity, I would say yes. I was like,
Yeah.
well, I have to take it. You know, these are the opportunities coming. I got to take them. Otherwise, I'm being wasteful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nowadays, I say, oh, let me think about it.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great opportunity. I mean, it is a great opportunity, but let me consider the time
If I can do it.
That's
If I
right.
desire to use my time and energy in that way.
That's
Right.
right. That's right. And it's not to be disrespectful. It's just to make sure, if I burn myself out, ain't nobody coming to light me back up.
No.
No, no, not in this world. So
Yeah.
I really, I think there's a lot of power in learning how to set boundaries, learning how to say no, learning how to say not right now,
Yeah.
and feeling like, yeah, I chose me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this has been so good. Thank you so much for sharing your
Oh,
wisdom,
it's a
your
wonderful story.
insight. How can people connect with you beyond the podcast? Is there anything special you have going on, your organization has going on that people should know about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely you can connect with us at BCY Fund on all of the platforms. We hope people will. We have a lot of resources, free professional learning resources, asynchronous courses people can sign up for to take.
Wonderful.
We have a micro credential program. In addition to, if you're local and you serve young people in Baltimore, then we provide about 300 hours a year of professional learning. So yeah,
Wow.
definitely tap into that, and follow us and follow our Youth Master Plan journey. We're hoping we're going to be sharing out as we go through. We have 3 phases of this project. We'll be sharing out reports and reflections, and we're hoping that other cities will be inspired as well to take some of the modeling from New Orleans, from Chicago, from all these cities that have these plans, and think about ways that we can center young people in our plan. So we're going to be sharing out as much as we know with some of our local city partners, and we just encourage folks, if you're interested in seeing a process that is going to unveil that really does require, in order for the end product to be, we already know, we'll know if we did it well or not in the middle. If ain't nobody,
Yeah.
if we don't have a diversity of people present, it's not going to be a good plan. So
Yeah.
if you want to just follow us and see how we're doing on that process. Hopefully you'll be inspired in whatever sector you are to think about, like, yeah, how do we get people involved and on the same pathway, charting toward the same course. So follow us there, follow us on social media, and you can keep track, hold us accountable as we develop this youth master plan for Baltimore.
Yeah, it's exciting work too. It's really exciting to like you say, we've seen these possibility models and to create this for your community and knowing if we do this thing right, we do this thing right, how will these young people benefit? Their families will benefit. It's very exciting work.
Really
So
excited.
yes, we will definitely be watching
Awesome.
and cheering y'all on as well. So we'll put all those links in the show notes so people can connect with you and your organization. So thank you all for listening. If this was valuable to you, we want to encourage you to share this episode out with your networks. We are streaming on all podcast platforms. You can also check us out on Black Women Leading YouTube channel and also on our website. You can listen to our episodes on the website as well. If you'd like to connect with us on socials, we are at Black Woman Leading. We're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. If you'd like to connect with me personally, I am Laura E. Knights, most active on LinkedIn and Instagram. And of course, you can learn about all of our Black Women Leading programs and events on our website at blackwomanleading.com. Finally, if you are an organization that wants to learn about our services that we do to work with leaders and teams to be more effective and do your work and collaborate better, you can check out our corporate site at knightsconsultinggroup.com. We would love to connect with you in any of these ways. And until next time, be well.